Hello and welcome to the Hidden World of Women podcast. Welcome back if you're a regular listener. My name is Melanie Robson. I'm the host of this podcast, brought to you by Women's Health and Wellbeing Services. Not sure if I said that. Anyway, I'm here again with another wonderful guest who's very generously agreed to come and talk about her experience of going through and leaving a violent relationship. Her name is Tash. She is a mum and a wonderful human being that's gone on an incredible journey. So I'm really honoured that you're here today. Welcome, Tash.
Thank you for having me. Oh my God, that was such a nice intro.
Oh, really? No, it is. It's really kind of you to come and talk about a topic, you know, and I guess the point of the podcast is for other women to hear women's stories and to talk about stuff that many women have shared experiences of, but we don't, you know, there's kind of a taboo about it or a stigma or shame, all these things. So, you know, I guess the more we're able to kind of bring some of these to light and just have an honest discussion about it and where you are now, because we were just talking before I started recording and like Tash is in such a different place now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So very inspiring stuff.
Thank you, Mel.
Where would you like to start? So would you just like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I'm a mum of two fantastic girls.
Yeah.
They're now 13 and 11. And yeah, that's just really, you know, I just have a normal mum life. It's just work, mum life, sports, running around, and you know, good friends, great family.
Nice.
Just probably like anyone else.
Yeah.
No different.
So you wouldn't on the street, we wouldn't look at you and go, wow, you know, we never really know what's someone's story.
You never know. And I think women like myself who've been through that abusive relationship, you are really good at hiding it. Yep. And you manage to fool everybody. School mums, family.
Wow.
And you just become an expert and a professional at hiding the reality of what is really going on.
Behind closed doors, as they say.
Yeah, and it's a tough gig trying to keep it all together.
That just sounds exhausting. It's already exhausting enough.
Yeah.
I think being a parent and juggling many things, but then having to work very hard at presenting a different veneer, so to speak, so people don't ask questions or...
Well, who does? I mean,
That's true.
You know, when you've got a nice home,
your
kids are beautifully behaved, you've got yourself together, like, you know, you're involved at the school, you know, you just managed to pull it off. So, and I don't think it's you intentionally pulling it off. You're just trying to live your life and just being a good mum. And I think that's just all I was ever focused on.
Sure.
Was just being the best mum that I could be. And it is a huge weight to carry. And I don't think you realise the weight of that until you're out of it.
Ah, interesting. The image that popped into my head then was like sort of trying to keep your head above water kind of thing and say, I'm not drowning, it's cool, you know, like I'm waving kind of, but really you're like, this is killing me on some level.
It was killing me on the inside.
Yeah, right.
Killing me. And that's why I think, the life I have now, the new lease on life, the happiness that I feel now compared to back in that relationship, it was, you can't, to compare it is just, there's, you know, I didn't think that I felt like I had any like stress or anxiety or anything like that. Like I was just living my life. I didn't think that I suffered from any of that. Yeah. But clearly looking back on it, I think I was just like in survival mode majority of the time. And just trying to keep the peace and not rock the boat and try and just keep everything good at home. That way there was no triggers like for no one to get angry, upset.
Yeah. So that was your normal.
That was normal.
So you wouldn't, you know, we don't question our normal if we're in the middle of it. That's our life. It's only, like you said, when you sort of have time and distance from it that you're like, wait, that's not a good normal.
It's not.
But you don't, why would you know any different at the time?
Well, I think I did know the whole time it was wrong.
But you're so busy trying to just...
Because I grew up in a beautiful family. I didn't grow up in a violent or abusive family. My parents beautiful to one another.
Yeah.
My dad is an amazing man. Never spoke rudely to my mum. So I grew up in a beautiful family. So how did I end up in this? So you just, you just do it. But you know it's wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course, because you're trying to
keep everything together.
Yeah. Especially, I think, as a parent, where you try to, for the kids, keep everything together.
You do keep everything together for them. And I think that's why your focus just becomes on your kids and you just dedicate then your life to them.
Yep. Yeah.
And so you sacrifice yourself.
Yep. Very female
to keep it.
To do, I think.
To keep it all, looks like happy families, and it's amazing what you can do. It's amazing what you can pull off.
It's incredible, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
For all the wrong reasons, but yeah. Can I guess, speaking of your earlier life, when did you meet your now ex?
So I met him when I was 19, and it was that instant attraction.
Yeah.
It was, liked him straight away.
Yep.
And it wasn't like a whirlwind romance or anything like that. It was quite a, steady, it was nothing. Yeah. But we had two very different lives. Like his life as a kid, very different to mine.
Right.
But I was drawn to that bad boy, yes. It kind of just,
There's something about it sometimes. Yeah.
And it's just what I was drawn to and attracted to. And then you kind of get into it. And it wasn't long after that we were together that, there were some warnings, things were happening that weren't great. But you just kind of push them to the side because you love them too much and you're just so forgiving.
Especially perhaps being young as well. And we want certain things and we're so in love.
No, we don't want to lose. Can't imagine my life without him.
Yeah.
Gosh, I remember feeling those kinds of
deluded
things.
At that age, aren't
so
we?
deluded.
I mean, it's lovely on the one hand, but also quite dangerous.
It's really dangerous. And I think that's why being in a serious relationship at such a young age, I think that we just need, like, especially my daughters, it's not something I'm going to encourage at all.
Yep. They need to be a bit more mature.
And I think that was the thing too. When I was that age, we had a really big family, so I had a lot of cousins, and they all had boyfriends, and there's that sort of amount of pressure that you feel like to have a boyfriend or to be in a relationship,
you want to fit in,
so not the most important thing.
But at the time, I guess it felt
interesting. And so that's where 19.
Yeah. What can I ask? What were some of those early warning signs, the red flags?
So one of the first things that I do remember was we were having this little bit of an argument, like a disagreement, and I had a necklace on that was from like my mum and dad, and he literally ripped it off my neck.
Yeah, right.
So that was one of the first things. And then the heavy drink, like a lot of drinking. Like he was a little bit older than me, so he was a few years older than me. We weren't big drink, like my family weren't big drinkers. My dad wasn't a big drinker. My parents raised, some issues.
With you? Oh, really?
About the drinking.
How was that for you?
I just kind of ignored it. I was like, don't hassle me. I'm like, do you know what? Like, I don't really want to know about it. And then, there were some issues. It didn't take long for issues to start to.
Do you mean a few months into things?
Yeah, definitely.
Would you say?
Yeah, definitely, that necklace situation, that wasn't. And my brother actually saw it.
Witnessed it.
Yeah.
And what did he? Did he say anything?
Yeah, he didn't say anything to him at the time, but he did sort of say to me, I saw what happened. It's not, that's not cool or whatever. He was he's younger than me, 5 years younger. So
wow, that would have been big for him to say that.
Yeah,
to go, wait, what just happened there?
But then you just dismiss it. You're like, oh, it's nothing. Like, don't worry about it, because you are a little bit embarrassed. You're like, oh, that's a bit
awkward.
For
someone to see.
And then he kind of had, there was some maybe a bit of mental health issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my mum pulling me aside one day and just going, you know, do you realize what you're getting yourself into? This is, you know, this is really heavy. And I was like, oh, I love him. And, you know, just that, what was spoken about, that rescue, that say you want to be there for someone. You think that it's your role in life just to be there for somebody all the time. So I didn't give up on him at all.
You know, and that sounds, sorry to interrupt, but that sounds, you know, in a way that seems perfectly logical and feasible, that we don't want to, just because someone's got some mental health issues or might be struggling with some substance abuse, you know, obviously there's a sliding scale of that. But, you know, gosh, if we did that to everyone that we met and dismissed them, that's, no, that wouldn't be very nice. So that kind of makes sense that you're like, oh, you know, it's not that bad. Plus, I can help him. You know, it sounds like you had some of that kind of.
Well, I loved him.
Yes.
And he was.
Yes.
I just saw all the good.
Yeah.
I didn't really see any of the bad. I didn't want to see the bad, so I chose not to see the bad, even though I knew, like, he told me that he'd done drugs before. Like, you know, it was like
it's in the past. He's
and
great
you're not
now.
doing that now.
Yeah.
That's probably that was maybe a big mistake of believing everything. Like, just but it's and so we you know, obviously kept going, and then we did actually, then when I was 21 we moved in together, and that was actually pretty horrific.
Oh, really? Pretty quickly? Or?
Yes.
Right.
Didn't take long. Holes in doors.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. And we lived together probably for about, I think it might have been about 6 to 9 months, something like that. It wasn't, and I actually ended up going home.
Because of what was happening?
I don't know why. I don't know. I don't remember having that feeling of I've got to get out of this. I've got to leave him. I remember maybe the lease had ran out or something or something. And so I ended up going back home for a little bit. Yeah. But then it wasn't long until we were moved back in together, you know, and my mum knew. She'd come around to the house one day and a window was smashed.
What, did she say anything?
She didn't really. They didn't really. No, she didn't really. She did say to him something about, you know, I hope you're not hurting my daughter, and, you know, but see, I never went to them.
So there was no doorway or permission or something. There's, I think it's I guess it's a kind of a very awkward conversation to have, which unfortunately keeps things behind closed doors and silenced.
Yeah.
But then I think for families witnessing that, I think this happens too with families where somebody's got a major drug issue. If they approach that person, sometimes the person just digs their heels even more, and you risk kind of cutting off, you know, from your daughter in your parents' case, and it's a really difficult situation.
And Mum and I have spoken about that since.
Really?
Yes, and she did say, I just knew that I couldn't put that kind of pressure on you, like, you know, and that you would eventually come to your senses. And they thought that I was, when I moved back home,
that was it. Oh, wow.
And they were so relieved.
Oh, gosh, it must have been hard for them to see you go.
And then I went and moved back in again. So you do get into this cycle because then but you still love, like, you feel every fibre of your body that you still love them, even though they're treating you so poorly and they're hurting you, and, you know, there's holes in doors, and it's sad. Majority of the time is sad, but you're not prepared to let it go.
It sounds seductive in a way and powerful in that dynamic between two people where there's it's sort of like high passion, but in a very catastrophic way.
Very toxic, very,
very toxic.
So toxic, but you feel that you love them, and
so love sort of trumps everything, even though it shouldn't really.
Yes.
Well, it does. It can't at the end of the day.
Not that. And, you know, there's, you know, looking back on it now, you know, in hindsight, that young person, I just want to, you know, I just want to shake her sometimes and just be like, well, what are you doing? But can't do that because that's been and done.
You mentioned before when we were talking that you have forgiven yourself for
who
you were back then and the choices that you made, you know, and that just sounds like such an important part of the journey?
I think to move forward, you have to forgive yourself. You have to get to a point, and it took me a while. It took coming to this great place and having, seeing my psychologist for such a, for that 18 months. That you and it's not something you start out thinking that you have to forgive yourself. You don't start that in your sessions, but gradually, when you talk through everything, the processes and everything, and you get to a point where I forgive myself for doing that, and that is the only way to move forward. You can't go forward without forgiving yourself and forgiving, your parents for not stepping in, because I'm sure there was a part of me that was a little bit upset and angry about that, because I'm a parent now too. My thing is I would never let my daughters ever stay in that. I would be dragging them out. So I think you got to forgive yourself, forgive your parents, forgive him.
Wow.
Forgive.
What a process. Yeah.
And that you can't hold on. You can't have any anger or hate or in your heart. You just have to just keep looking forward.
I think it sounds like the not forgiving too reminds me of just sort of staying in the past and sort of anchoring yourself back then and actually keeping it alive within you when really you want to keep moving forwards. You want to place it somewhere in the past where it needs to be without like blocking it out or getting stuck on it, whereas the forgiveness is very freeing.
It is.
It sounds like a liberating kind of process.
I think it's, and then it'll just happen. I think it just, but I think you need that help. You can't do this on your own.
What did you use for help that you said coming to see a psychologist?
Yeah. So here, this was like the highlight of my life, this place. I think there's no amount of friends that can help you. Really heal, not really. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. But I think friends are good, family are good, but you need someone else's perspective who doesn't know you, who doesn't know him, who's just
really
wants
objective and on the outside.
So objective and so supportive and doesn't question you, because people do say, well, why didn't you leave? If it was so bad, why didn't you leave? But you don't get that kind of judgment when you get that professional help. And
you shouldn't anyway. If you're experiencing that, go see someone else, because that's...
Yeah, and it's the processes, it's that just, maybe just a couple of things in a session that, the questions or the processes that you can do at home. And you just carry that with you forever. I'll carry that with me into every single relationship, not just with another partner, but my friendships, my relationships with my children, my relationships with my work. It's life-changing. Yeah. And you really do just have to forgive yourself and accept where you're at. Yep.
Very powerful. I think
accept where you're at.
Yeah.
And that's all that, where you are is where you are.
And can I rewind a little bit? So you guys had moved back in together.
Yep.
And I'm assuming, but I don't know, things really hadn't changed. They were just sort of continuing on the way.
Yeah, things actually probably got worse. So we moved to a different suburb, and that was quite a far away from my parents.
Was that intentional or just accidental? Or
I think it just happened. Yep. I think, we moved closer to where he sort of grew up in that area. So we moved there, and things definitely escalated there. I did find out at one point that he was doing quite hard drugs. And if we had my parents over, I remember this incident. I had planned, parents to come over for dinner. He created, obviously there was a scene that was created because he didn't really want them around. I don't think, because he was just so in his drug, and I didn't do drugs. I'd never touched drugs in my life. Wow,
he sounds so different to you.
So completely opposite.
Yeah.
But I remember, like this one time, you know, he like threw me down on the ground, and I remember hurting my elbow, and I just remember being in the bathroom, just trying to get away, like just being away from him, and just thinking, oh my God, how embarrassing. I've got to call my parents and say, don't come over, because I couldn't possibly have them over after he's just thrown me around. And just, we'd be driving to go and get like dinner somewhere, and I remember like he'd smashed my windscreen like twice. I remember at least twice.
For a reason, I'm going to do in commas there kind of thing.
Probably just road rage, or I probably said something, or I don't know.
So could you ever tell when that was coming, or were there certain, you know, things that, or is it out of the blue? Was it a mixture of everything?
Probably a mixture of everything.
Gosh.
Yeah. Sometimes it would be out of the blue. Sometimes it would be, you know, you knew because it'd been, you know, drinking, and that would escalate things too. Like if you'd been drinking. Yeah. I remember a neighbour had come over at one point, and he just knocked on the door, and he's like, you know, he said to me, you don't have to put up with this, you know, because obviously they could hear. Yeah. Like neighbours could hear.
Of course.
People can hear this.
Jeez.
You know?
What was that like when the neighbour knocked on your door?
I was like, oh, no, I'm fine. Like you just dismiss it. Yeah. Again. So.
Again and again.
Again and again. Because like.
What was...
I love this person. I don't want to... I can't imagine my life without them.
And you don't want to. It's almost impossible in some realm at that time to imagine a different kind of life, because you don't want to, you know. And I think it's easily for us as humans to just cling to something we so desperately want. We just don't want this. We don't want this to be real, and this is not happening. And this is actually how it is, and I can do it. This is great. You know, it's very powerful. I think our minds are very powerful at keeping us stuck in places for certain lengths of time. Yes.
We're very good at tricking ourselves.
We are. So do you think there was, I guess, a fair amount of denial going on for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the other thing was that I remember thinking, I'm like 23, like this was that second time that I moved in with him. I think I was like 23 and I'm too old to find anyone else. Like this
really?
Yeah, that's what I remember thinking. I'm 23.
Yep.
23, like,
gosh,
23.
I know,
and thinking you're too old to find, like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous now coming from me, looking back.
Yeah. But that's sometimes what 23-year-olds think, you know.
You can't see the future.
You can't, and you don't have that perspective. You haven't lived long enough, frankly, to really know.
You know nothing about
the baby.
You are, and and it's awful to look back at that person and just think, oh my God, she was just, she just had no self-confidence. My self-confidence had just gone. Like I just didn't believe in myself at all. I didn't believe that I was worth any more than that. Isn't that sad?
It's very, very sad.
That's sad.
Was that as a result of being in that relationship that over time it
I think
corroded?
So. It eroded. But I was managing a store. Like my work was good.
Wow.
I was a manager of a store.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd gone to work a couple of times because we had to wear like short sleeve shirts and there were bruises under my arm.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. And one of my workmates had said, oh my goodness, you know, what's happened to your arm? And I can't remember what I said, but I was just remember thinking, oh, you know, shit, I better not raise my arms again just in case. Because I would have that's where I'd have bruises on my arms mostly, never on the face, but around the arms and, you know, so I just remember thinking, oh, I must never raise my arms again.
As opposed to, shit, I need to get out of this relationship.
Shit, I better, not raise my arms again so no one can see the bruises.
Yeah, and that's just where you were at the time.
Yes.
That was your logic.
Yes.
You know, and
survival mode, just complete.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
So you guys continued to live together?
Yep, and then we bought a block of land and built a house.
Wow. Yeah. So you're ticking all the boxes in a way of like, yeah, we're a couple and we're doing all the kinds of things. But sort of beneath the surface, it's crazy. That sounds, and kind of to look back on is like, wow. And then we bought a block and we built a house.
I know, and I just say that like, that's just what we did.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't prepared to give up the relationship or leave the relationship. Really.
Yep.
I felt like I needed him.
You needed him.
I'm sure that's what I felt at the time. I remember just feeling that now. That's just come to me.
Wow.
I just remember feeling that. I needed him.
I wondered then, like, that sense of I need him. If he's not here, what will happen to me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
On many levels.
Maybe quite possibly. I'm not good enough to find anyone else. He's as good as I can get. That's all because it wasn't all bad. There were some good things in there. We did have good times. So when we had the good times, obviously they were good. And so,
sure.
So you stay because, you know, what's a little bit of being thrown around or, you know, being pushed or being, you know, so being spoken to terribly. What's really like at the time, I'm sure thinking, well, what's that? That's nothing compared to the good times we're having. I can put up with that.
So they outweighed the bad times, so to speak, obviously. The good times, there was enough, or there was something. There was enough to justify the, Yeah. And you wouldn't even say it probably outweighed. The good definitely didn't outweigh. No. And that's, I think we've spoken about that before. The ratio could be like 1 to 5, like one good moment or one good thing to happen to maybe 5 toxic, bad, hurtful, destructive moments. But because there's that one, that keeps you hopeful. Yeah. Oh, hope. Tell me about the role that hope played.
Yeah, I think you just hope that they're going to change.
Yeah.
I'm going to love him more. I'll just love him more. If I love him enough, he'll change. This can't go on forever, can it? Like, surely this cannot go on forever. I remember telling myself that all the time. This cannot go on forever.
And yet it
did.
It did went on and on. I think that's an easy trap, I think, for many people, particularly women, to go, well, if I love them enough, love is all powerful. Love is, what did you say before?
We said unconditional.
Unconditional.
Such a powerful word, isn't it? Unconditional.
Yeah. And that at the time, that was true for you. That's how it felt.
Yes. And I think love is unconditional with certain people in your life, your children.
Yes.
Like when you're loving your children, your babies, your children, that is unconditional. Yeah. But a partner,
that's a choice.
It's got to be, it has to be conditional in some form. You can't sacrifice yourself and tolerate everything that this person wants to throw at you. And then, well, I'm committed to this person. I'm going to stay. It doesn't matter how bad he treats me or her. Like it does. Sure. It's not just men. Yep. Yeah, you know, right. It doesn't matter how bad this person treats me. I'm going to stay.
Which is just, to sit here and talk about that now, it just sounds crazy that we, as humans, we kind of kid ourselves in this way to go, well, I've not signed up for it, or this is just it, and then I kind of have no choice, or I don't want to leave anyway. But it actually, when you pull it apart, it is very different to the love that you have for your child, or another person that I believe that would love with the child. You know, I agree, so unconditional. Even as adults, they could do some pretty wild stuff, and you'd be like, "Well, you're my kid.
You're my kid. I love you no matter. Like I do love you no matter what."
But as adults, we choose who we end up in relationships with, even you with family members, kind of thing. I mean, it's blood, but there's still choices, really.
Choices
around how you want to be treated.
Yes, and I think that is, having boundaries.
Boundaries. So what do you think, looking back now, was going on with your boundaries?
I had none. Zero. Because, I threatened so many times. And that's it. Like, you threatened many times. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I'm not going to tolerate.
So you would say that to him?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Yes. Yep. Many times. I'm not going to tolerate this. And it wasn't even that he was promising never to do it again. It was just like, I'll never do it. Like, I won't do it again. It doesn't, he didn't feel good about it. So then you feel sorry for them because they look so sad because they've treated you like crap.
Right.
It's crazy.
And then
it's crazy.
Continues on that cycle.
Continues. And so you threaten and you threaten and you can keep threatening.
But I guess if you don't go, then they also know that
you're empty. Threats. You're empty. Yep. You don't mean what you say. You're never gonna.
So why would they change?
Exactly. Yeah. But we'd been to counselling.
Oh,
couples camp. We had been to yes.
Yeah. We're at that stage or later?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, because I remember we went to one in that area, so it must have been while we were there.
Do you remember much from the counselling?
Yeah, yes and no. I just remember, you know, yes, like feeling like trying to, we were obviously trying to get help.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yeah, but we never stuck it out long enough, I don't think.
And was that the primary reason to go, because of the
violence?
DV? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And he went and he attended
He
some
did.
of that. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But you didn't stick it out long enough.
We didn't stick it out long enough. No. And I don't even know really why. Maybe we just missed a couple of sessions and then it just, or things got good and then it just falls to the wayside. And
that old
you know,
chestnut.
because as long as, you know, you're still going out for dinner and you're still, you know, having good moments, then what else does it matter? Yeah, like we're okay.
Yeah.
We're good.
Very easy to fall into that.
Yeah. So we built a house and moved in together and well, we were already living together, but we built a house and then it wasn't long. I think we've been in there probably only a couple of years and then we got married. So I'm married and there was
there any doubt in your mind even then?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The night before. Even the night before. I remember the night that he proposed to me. Then I remember thinking I should be feeling happier than this. Like when someone's asking me to marry them.
And you weren't.
Yeah. Like I loved him and I wanted to say, because it just felt like the next progression to get married.
Oh, right. So it's just you're following the rule book almost. Yeah.
And so you just do it. And I did. And
It's kind of heartbreaking to hear that, you know.
So I'm, you know, it's true. I'm married. I knew full well what I was marrying. It's not like I went into that marriage and then all of a sudden it just started.
Right.
No, it was pretty much from the beginning. So, and I'd just become accustomed to the way that it was. I just accepted that this was just the way. Yep. That it was.
This is your normal.
Yeah, this is normal.
Yeah. Even though I assume you would look at other people's relationships and you'd be able to remember your parents growing up. That's a funny kind of thing that our brains kind of do to like split certain things really and partition it and park that over there, and you can be living in this kind of bubble really and know on some level your brain was probably like, I'm not.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter because I've got my home. I've got my home and, you know, I'm in a relationship because that's so important.
Yeah, that's what we're told.
I'm in a relationship. I couldn't possibly be on my own now.
Oh, right. So you were afraid of being on your own.
And I just didn't think it was possible. Like, I just didn't think I was in too deep.
Oh, yeah.
I was in too deep.
Yeah.
You know, we'd built the house and we're in this, you know, we're engaged and, you know, you just keep getting deeper and deeper in and you know, there's more commitment. And
do you think that keeps many women in there or many people who are in these relationships? They keep sort of getting in deeper, so to speak, and then it's
quite possibly. I mean, I think maybe everyone's got their different reasons for staying. But right. I was in like it was deep. I mean, it was, and you don't want to. Maybe there's a part of you that just can't be bothered either.
Yeah.
Like I can't be bothered dealing with the fallout of it all.
That makes sense. Probably better the devil you know kind of thing.
Yeah. And well, this was better than being alone. Surely this was better than being alone. So even though there were some, you know, obviously the bad moments, but there were good times too. Yeah. So abusive relationships are not bad all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably a misconception about that.
I think that's it. And I think that's what women need to really understand is that just because there are good moments, if he's doing that, if your partner is doing these things to you, it's still an abusive relationship. Yeah. Doesn't take away from that.
No, you can have 100 good moments, but if there's one or two instances of abuse, I mean that in theory that's a no-brainer, but it's not that simple. Yeah, obviously. And then you had kids.
Did. Yeah. So we got married in 2005 and we had our first baby in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually abusive to me through my pregnancy.
Wow. So he physically assaulted you during your
Yeah,
pregnancy?
so it wasn't as bad, obviously, as other times.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually remember being, so I would have been about 19 weeks pregnant because I was going for that, going for a scan.
Yeah.
And he was just, he was physically just restraining me. And I just remember like just feeling so protective of my stomach and just trying to, like it was terrifying because, you don't want to lose your baby. And I had a scan the next day and I remember I was like bleeding that next morning.
Oh, wow.
But the baby was fine. Like the baby was fine. She was all good. And I don't remember too many bad things after that.
Okay.
Actually I remember a lot of the times he was really, really kind to me, so that
again, it's another,
But then I was only telling a friend last night that because where she's living, I could actually see the hospital where I had my babies.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, oh, that's where I had my babies. And we just got chatting and I'm like, he actually physically grabbed me in the hospital. So I had a newborn.
Wow.
And it was even in the hospital that he grabbed me.
No time that he didn't hurt you.
Every time. Yeah.
Just
like even in the hospital.
Like that is insane.
It's like he grabbed me by the arm. And I'm like thinking, oh, God, okay. Here we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just more of the same, really. Was there a lot of, arguing and verbal?
A lot of arguments.
Right. Yeah.
And see, I argued back.
Sure.
It's just
of course
what I did.
Yeah.
It's not the way to do it. I don't, it's just, I wish at times that I hadn't because, things escalate. Like if you just maybe quiet and, I learnt that later in the relationship.
To be quiet.
To just be quiet.
So you really changed.
Yeah.
throughout.
I went from,
Yeah.
Because I just didn't care. Like towards the end of the relationship, I just couldn't be bothered arguing my case. And there was a part of me thinking, well, we're arguing and we're getting it out in the open. Well, this is good, isn't it?
Okay, I can see the logic.
This is good, Good fighters make good lovers. I don't know, but completely ridiculous.
It sounds like you got worn down, but towards the end there, it was just
pretty exhausted by the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you had baby number 1 and then baby number 2.
And then baby number 2, she was a surprise and she was, that was, I had a 2-year-old and a newborn and things were not too bad. I guess I was really busy with the kids. So I don't remember a lot of bad times in that period, of having the little ones. Obviously there were a lot of arguments and, pushing and shoving and that kind of thing. But I just don't remember it being really that bad. I was focused elsewhere. 100% focused elsewhere.
Did the children see things?
Yes.
Over time? Yeah.
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 So I remember when she would have only been about 2 or 3. And I remember her saying, stop, don't do that to mummy. And you think that, on the outside looking and you think, oh, as a mum, you think that would be your indicator to go. Yeah. But you don't want to break up the family. You'll do anything you can to keep it together. And what's a little bit of arguing and what's a little bit of shoving and what's a bit of pushing and...
So these are the things you tell yourself at the time.
Convince yourself.
Yeah.
That the worst would be breaking your family up.
So that's worse.
That's worse.
Yeah. It's kind of this flawed logic in a way.
And I think too, another thing that would keep me from not making any rash decisions was well, I kind of get to control this. I've got my babies.
Yep.
the thought of having then to be separated from my children, like what if every second weekend, what if he then had to have them, you think of those things.
And I think that's legitimate thoughts
that
and worries to have.
Yeah.
I think many women have that.
And then you think, oh, well, if he meets someone else and then my kids then will have another, like have a stepmom. I couldn't handle that. Yeah. I'd rather just deal with this.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Does it?
It does make sense. And I can understand at that time that was some strong reasons there to stay. And this is what I think is important for people to understand who haven't been through that or don't know anyone who's gone through that. It's very easy to look on the outside to make judgments and go, why didn't you leave? And what is with that logic? But there's something very powerful, I think, going on in that dynamic, and within each of those individuals, that sets up its own kind of parallel universe in a way, and we don't know when things will change for one person to leave or finally leave if they make a few attempts to leave. You can never... I think you can't predict that sometimes. And you can't understand it.
And things get pretty bad. Things can get...
How bad did they get?
Well, I mean, there was one time that my youngest daughter, she was only about 9 months old, and he came home from being out with mates and started like smashing the house up.
Wow.
Yeah. And I actually remember just thinking, I have to just get my baby and get out of here. And I actually did phone the police. I actually remember phoning the police.
Had you phoned the police before?
Never. That was like my first time.
Wow, that's pretty big.
And I phoned the police, but then I was like, oh, no, it's okay. Like I chickened out. And I ended up just getting my baby and getting in the car, like packing a bag, like just... can't even remember how I managed to do it, but I did.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to my dad's place.
Right.
Yep. So I'd stayed at my dad's for about a week, and he came over and visited to see, to see our daughter. And my dad had gone around to our house and had a stern warning, conversation warning with him, and I wasn't going back until he'd fixed the house up, like the doors and. And I went back.
Yeah. I think that's why it's so important, like what you were saying before about forgiveness. You so have to forgive yourself.
You have to forgive yourself.
For the decisions that you made at the time.
Yeah.
And I think too, as a mother, particularly with a baby, and small children, we're very vulnerable at that stage. It is a matter of survival and our instinct to protect our child, but to kind of, I still, I'm dependent on this person. I need this person. I love this person. This is my family. These are all at the time really kind of logical things.
It is logical, and they're the provider of the family. He's working. He's pulling it off well. Yeah. He's working. He's a good provider. Excellent provider. He had a great job.
Yep.
Provided for us really well. We weren't. Yeah. We were not. We were just like that random family that you see out any other day of the week.
Happy family.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yep. Like I said, good provider. Many good qualities. So yeah, it was pretty easy to pull off, really, wasn't it? With all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Was it shocking then when you did leave and when I assume you told some people in your life, what was really happening?
Yeah, it was all starting to unravel because there was a drug issue that
got bigger and
bigger.
Wow.
And I was starting to wonder, what is going on? Like he's very different. Like he's very different. Just very. There was a time we were going to go on a holiday to Phuket, and it was a couple of weeks beforehand, and he'd been out and he'd come home and he was obviously been drinking. We got into a little bit of an argument, and yeah, there was obviously arguing and kids were crying, and then later that night, and I just remember thinking constantly, like when things like that happened, because he used to drink a lot. I was just like thinking, I just want him to go to sleep. Like, he'll go to sleep soon, and then he'll be calm. And I just remember feeling that anxious, like just want him to go to sleep, or you know, you lay down with the kids to get them to sleep, and then you're just trying to create calm, but not, you know, no noise, just no arguments, just keep it as calm as you can. And obviously we got to that point, he'd fallen asleep and the kids were asleep, and I was just like, oh, I can breathe. And then there was a knock at the door, and it was police.
Oh shit.
Yeah, two police women were at the door, and they're like, we've had a report. So obviously someone had phoned the police. They're, you know, yelling going on and kids crying, and obviously just trying to play it down. I was just like, oh no, it's all good. Like, you know, he's asleep. And then he yelled, you know, telling them to rack off, whatever. And so they did leave. They left. And then probably about an hour later, two policemen came to the door with a 72-hour restraining order, like restraining order, VRO, 72 hours. So he had to leave, had to go with them there and then.
And whether you wanted that or not,
whether I wanted it or not, they did that.
Wow, what was
so
that?
I had no choice in that, and I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is shit. So, but he struggled. He put up a fight.
That wouldn't have been useful for him.
Yeah, no, he put up a fight. He was like, no, and he went to walk off down the street. And it ended up, obviously they had to wrestle him to the ground, and they threw him in the back of the police car, and he was yelling and screaming. And I remember him saying, are you happy now? Look what you've done.
Oh, God.
Yeah, blaming me. Look, are you happy now? So it was like 72 hours. But obviously, you know, he come back. We went to Phuket with friends.
Did you, with something like that, did you guys talk about that, or it was just he's back and we're just getting on with life?
Just get on with it.
Right.
You're just used to it now. What's the point of talking about it? You know, like
nothing's going to change. Yeah. Sure.
You know, just
got a holiday booked now.
Yeah, got a holiday. Let's just go to Phuket and let's just let's just do this. So we did. We went, and obviously he was withdrawing.
Oh, shy. Yeah. Okay.
And that was a bad holiday.
It was.
It was.
Oh my God.
It was pretty intense.
So he had a raging addiction. Like there was some, like you said, pretty major substance use problems.
Yeah.
Did he anticipate going through withdrawals going over there? He didn't.
I think that he just hoped that he could just drink his way into oblivion. If he could just drink enough, then that would fix the need for drugs.
Sure.
So I remember one night in Phuket, he was pretty bad, and our friends were staying upstairs. We were downstairs, separate hotel rooms, but they were above. And I was just screaming for help because he was just
he was very ill, and
it was pretty bad. Yeah,
and you're in a foreign
country, and so my daughter would have only been about 5 at the time, and she saw all of that, and I I just remember her saying that she couldn't breathe. Like she couldn't breathe because of, obviously it was stressing her out, and it was just, but then you just get up and you go to breakfast the next day, and you just, I was cold. I remember being cold to him. Like I wasn't nice to him. Like after that, I wasn't forgiving. It's very cold, and didn't want anything to do with him. But that just, I remember that was a pretty bad holiday. But then we come back, and we were only home probably for about a week, and I'd taken the girls to school, and I'd come back, and there was a card under my door from Department of Child Protection. Oh God! Because the police had been called.
Of course, they probably have. That's probably a
that's
mandatory.
the process.
Yeah.
It's
what was?
Oh, I don't think I've ever felt so sick in my life. I just, I phoned them, obviously. And I remember thinking, like, well, this is my way out.
So you were pretty...
That was my... I was, like, thinking, that's my way out. Like, this is my way out. I could tell the truth.
Yeah.
And I could start to get out. But then I was like, oh, my... what if I lose my kids?
So now you have that hanging over your head.
Yeah, that was my biggest fear. I was like, I prided myself on being a mum. It was the only thing I cared about.
Yeah.
The only thing.
Keeping
the
it going,
only
really.
thing I cared about was being a mum. The only thing. It was like everything to me. So,
what did you tell them?
That we just got into an argument and it was complete overreaction.
And
the police overreacted, and covered the story well. And it's not that they believed me, but there was, what else were they meant to do?
Exactly. I think without evidence either, their hands are a bit tied, I suppose. I'm not sure of the actual processes, but yeah.
But obviously they were, then after, because we had to go in, I went in on my own first. I remember I went in and had a meeting with them, and then they got all of us in. They got myself,
the kids. Gee.
Yep, all of us.
Interviewed all of you?
Yes. Not separately with the kids, separately with him.
All right.
I'd already had mine because I'd already been in, but that day, yeah.
And was that, so things were getting more, what's the word? I don't know, serious
or something.
They were escalating, and there was increasing external, things coming into your life going, hey, this isn't good kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's scary because you don't want to lose your kids.
No, that fear.
And I just remember thinking, and I remember speaking to a girlfriend and saying, because she knew about it, and I just said, if it comes down to him or the kids, I'm choosing, like, the kids, I will not lose my kids. So if I have to tell the truth about him, if they turn around to me and said, we actually don't believe you, and we could take your kids away, I would be like, that would have been enough for me to go, well, this is what's really happening.
But nobody...
There was no pressure from it.
Right.
It was I remember feeling quite comfortable once I was in there and managing to, to tell them what I needed to tell them. Yeah, it was a little bit of an argument. And that was the truth. It was, it was an argument. He certainly didn't place hands on me that time. That's, I think, was baffling to me. Wow. That one of the one times that he didn't get physical with me.
Yeah.
But he was at the front waving a knife around.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that night. So maybe,
sure, that can be seen as
someone walking their dog, maybe walking. Who knows who called?
Yeah.
Still don't know to this day.
Wow.
Who called the police? But someone did, and it was that was a good thing.
Yeah. That's the right thing to do.
Was the right thing to do. Definitely the right thing to do. I know people say, I don't want to get involved. Don't want to get involved, and people do argue, but obviously that person knew something wasn't right. That person trusted their instincts, and they were right. Or maybe they'd heard other arguments before. Who knows? Don't know.
But they set something in motion, it sounds like.
Yes,
with that call.
Yes. Yeah. So that was. Then I think I was just very, very scared. Then after that, to have an argument with him, because I didn't want the repercussions from that, police coming around again and then having to go to child protection again. So then I think that's why then I just became very quiet.
Oh, I see. This makes sense now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Became very, very quiet.
And I imagine you had to work hard just to keep up everything's fine and we're just doing the school thing and all that kinds of stuff of... Well,
Yeah, and then he went and did like fly-in, fly-out work. So that was good.
Yeah, I could
like
see
that was that was peaceful.
Yeah.
It's like then I was just free. I remember just feeling free, like in those weeks that he was away.
Did you think during the times that he was away and things were calmer and you felt free, did you have any thoughts then of leaving or
No.
Were you financially dependent on him?
Yes. Yeah. He was our only.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he provided for us, and so he was a great provider. And I controlled the finances.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was paying he was earning the money, and I was paying the bills, and we were going on holidays, and
so kind of a team in a way.
Yeah, we made a good team.
Yeah.
I was a stay-at-home mum.
Yep.
When he wasn't working away, obviously. Everything was always done for him, meals always, I loved my role, what I was doing. I loved it. I did love that, being at home with the kids and being a stay-at-home mum. And
do you think that was a factor in keeping you in there because in that instance, that role and that was comfortable and rewarding for you. The thought of that going.
Yeah. And I like, you know, it was, to me, it was like, well, look at everything I've got. That's a small price to pay. So what that he might push me around, you know, verbally abuse me, you know, do all those things. Yeah. The payoff for what I had, the life obviously that I had, I didn't have to work. Yeah. Could be a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah, sure.
I just looked at all the positives.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, that's a good enough reason to stay.
Yeah. And until it wasn't. Can I ask what led up to you eventually?
Yeah, so we obviously went through a bit of a rough stage. 6 years ago, he lost his dad. His dad passed away, and my mum was diagnosed with cancer within only like a month of those things happening.
God, yeah.
So it was pretty intense, and I was at the hospital a lot with my mum, and obviously he was going through his stuff, but I wasn't able to be there for him because I was going through my own stuff. We're having a lot of arguments. And but I remember one night before my mum's surgery, she was going to have major surgery, and we got into an argument, and he threatened because he had when his dad died, he had some money from an inheritance. So then he was like, the threats were, well, he felt powerful because he had money behind him, that he would take the kids from me, and that he would stupid things like that. And I just remember this night we got into an argument, and that to me was just like horrific. You can't threaten to take my kids away. But then I just remember he elbowed me to the face, and it was like those, you know, and I remember he smashed a hole in the pantry door, and it was just like, that was pretty bad. And I remember going to bed that night just thinking, oh God, this isn't love. Like, my mum's about to have major surgery tomorrow and he can't even support me. And I've been by his side through everything. Like, this is the only time I've ever needed him. The only time. Yeah. Every other time I've just got on with my, you know, done everything myself and been, you know, thought I was quite independent and strong, you know, but.
Well, I think you were in a way.
In a way.
In a way.
In a different way.
Yes, a very different way.
But
so it became kind of obvious or something in that moment.
Yeah, things were just starting to really, really unravel. We probably had a really, really bad year. It was a really bad year, but then somehow we just come out of it, and I don't know how. But then we just were good again. Like I don't know, maybe the pressure had been taken off. But we'd been to Bali in that time too, and and things were bad in Bali.
The same situation.
And it's funny though, because we had like family photos taken on the beach. Yeah. And I've got them up in my house now. Wow. Because it's family photos. Yeah. I keep everything up in the house for the kids at the moment until because he's moved out until we find our own place, you know, eventually. And we look like the happiest family. And that's the craziest part, is that only a couple of hours before that, he was yelling and abusing me and calling me every name under the sun, telling me what a terrible, awful person I am. Yet here we all are in these family photos, just smile. Like it just, I look at it and just think, I just cannot believe that we like that. But I look at my daughter and she looks sad. Like, you know, I look at...
Children don't hide it as well as us.
Yeah, she didn't smile. She wasn't very smiley, you know, in those photos. But we were like, you know, pulling it off. But so obviously then then the years, it was just starting to get... everything was escalating. And then I'd found... I'd caught him in the garage doing drugs. Right. It was like New Year's Day. And straight away it was like I knew something was going on. Like I knew that he was hiding something from me, and I was on a warpath to try and like find out what was going on. And so anyway, found him, and then he got a bit of counselling for that. Didn't last long because he was all right. He was better. He didn't have a drug problem anymore. And he managed to keep that pretty well hidden. I'd go looking for stuff and I couldn't find anything because I just knew something wasn't right because the aggression was still there and it was just nasty. Yeah. Some of the stuff was just it was just downright nasty. It was just horrible. Yeah. And, so we sort of fast forward to, obviously things are just unraveling. And we ended up going away for my birthday. Mm-hmm. And I was turning 40. Mm-hmm. And we went to Bali, mm-hmm. took friends, mm-hmm. family. And it was awful. I had like my first panic attack. Because he was withdrawing in Bali.
Yeah.
And my 40th birthday dinner, he just got up and left. He left. And I just sat down. I'm like, what are you doing? Like I said to myself, what are you doing? This is crazy. This man doesn't love you. What are you doing? And I did have a panic attack in Bali, and I said to my stepmom and my best friend, you have to help me get out. When we get home, you have to help me. And I was struggling to breathe, but I just remember that feeling of just, and we got back from Bali, and I mean, a lot of things happened in Bali, a lot of horrible things.
That other people witnessed?
Yes.
See,
it was not saying it wasn't hidden anymore.
No.
He actually went off at me at a restaurant in front of family, friends, other people in the restaurant. He went off.
Wow.
Yeah. Yelled and screamed. And I'm like thinking, well, there's nothing to hide anymore.
Oh, hello. It's all here now. He's not even working hard to cover
Keep it
his
a secret.
tracks. Yeah, exactly.
Nah, there's no secret. So
was that a strange relief or something for you or not? I'm just like,
I think back then I'm like thinking, well,
okay then.
Yeah, this is what it is, and we're not trying to hide it anymore, and okay, this isn't right. Like, and I knew the whole time, all these years I knew that it wasn't right. I knew that this wasn't right. I knew it inside me, like just in convincing mode the whole time of that, I'll get through it. I'm strong. I'll get through it. Just ride out another day.
Yeah.
We got back from Bali, and I did say to him, I think we need to separate. Mm-hmm. But then it was our daughter's birthday in the August. So Bali was July. We come back sort of beginning of August. Daughter's birthday in August. Then our other daughter in September.
Oh.
So I'm like, well, we can't separate around their birthdays. How awful. That would make me an awful mother, like to break up. That's what they'll remember for their birthdays. So then we left it, and Christmas came. Mm-hmm. Christmases were always tough.
Right.
Because a lot of drinking. And Yeah. Just not good. Always on edge. Always on edge at Christmas time.
Not a fun time.
Yeah. And but then things started. I'd actually found more evidence that he was doing really hard drugs. Like his drug addiction had escalated. So I actually found needles.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
pretty serious stuff.
I knew then that.
Yep.
And then when you confront them,
it's denial.
It's denial, and then they turn it on you, and they become aggressive, and so you just don't want to.
Sure.
You just back away. And then sort of, March sort of came, and all these things were happening, and I just thought to myself, do you need any more? Like, I remember thinking to myself, the universe is just throwing all this at you, like all this stuff at you. Yeah. This is your moment. This is your moment to get out.
Yeah.
And I remember very calmly, we had a conversation at the front of our house. We were sitting at the front, and I just said, I think you need to leave, because I'd then found after all that, I found that he was talking to other women online.
Right. Jesus.
I'm like,
oh God.
I'm like, really through everything, and now you're doing that.
Yeah.
I think I'm done. Yeah. Like I just was like, no, I've got to have some self-respect. This is awful. Like, can't be doing that to me on top of everything else.
And so you had this calm conversation.
It was calm. Mm-hmm. Wasn't aggressive. So he packed his bag, and because his mother was in Vietnam at the time, and he was responsible for watering her lawn. Mm-hmm. So he was like, he goes, well, maybe he was only going to go for a week. Yeah. That's what he thought, but I knew in my mind I was never letting him back.
Wow.
I knew this was it. You can never come back.
Mm-hmm. So something had clicked in you.
Yes. Yeah. I'd found some strength. I was like, no, this is my moment. Mm-hmm. This is my moment. There's no more. If I don't do this now, I'll be in exactly the same position in a year's time.
Yeah. Yeah. So he left?
Yep.
Did he try to come back?
Not to like, he thought he was just going to come back. So I don't even think he tried. He just assumed that we needed maybe a week space.
And then things will calm down.
And things will calm down. But then when he realised that wasn't happening, when I said, I really don't think, I'm not ready to have you back.
Yeah.
That's where things started escalating from him. It was like constant harassment, like the phone calls, the text messages.
Wow.
He actually broke into the house when I come to the house one night. I remember one morning I was, getting ready to take the kids to school, getting ready to reverse out the driveway, and he jumped in the passenger seat.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah. I would drop the kids off at school and he would tailgate. He would be waiting.
Wow.
Because he wasn't working, see. He'd lost his job. Things were unravelling. He hadn't worked maybe for a year.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, because he had a really good name in his industry. But then now I found out since that he was testing positive to drug tests and stuff. So he wasn't able to get work and putting a huge amount of stress on the family. But in that time, I'd realised that a couple of years before I needed to get a job. So that was my thing. Like, so I was working, and so I felt like, oh no, I've got this. So that's what gave me the confidence. Like, I'm working. Okay, it's only part-time, but I'm working and I'll find a way. I will find a way.
Yeah.
And then it all just, So then obviously I had to go to court and get a restraining order.
Gee, yeah.
Because things were getting pretty bad. I was coming home from work and he'd taken like photos off the wall and thrown them on my bed. Like, he was coming into the house while I was at work. Like, there was just no... He was out of control. He was out of control. And it was scary. Yeah. Because I knew he was on drugs, and then people were scaring me around me going, oh, well, if he's on drugs, you don't know what he's capable of. And which is true.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Scary stuff.
Yeah. But I didn't think he'd ever hurt the kids. I knew that he would hurt me. I wasn't worried for the kids. I was worried about myself. And so we got so I ended up getting the restraining order, and that didn't even stop him. He breached it many times, had to go to the police.
So he got arrested and...
Yes, yeah. But the police, it was difficult, and that's what I would advise anyone. Like, if you go to a police station and they're not very welcoming, they're not prepared to help you, go to another one.
Yeah, right.
I didn't.
That's good advice.
I just took it. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. I just thought police were there to help.
Yeah. And how ironic, considering they'd been knocking at your door a few years before, twice, and then DCP and all these kinds of and now you're actually approaching them and saying, you need to help me now.
Yeah, and they question, they're like, oh, well, you really kind of need to prove it. Like, he would leave notes on my car, and they're like, well, you really need to prove that's from him.
Oh,
I'm like, well, everything in the letter, everything in the note
is
relevant to what's going on in our situation.
So frustrating.
It was all, So that.
Okay, go to another police station.
Go to another police station.
Yeah.
I didn't. I just kind of accepted. I couldn't believe I was in shock. I was like thinking these.
Okay.
And they made, I felt bad. I felt low. I was like, couldn't believe that I was in this position, And so that was that part of it. And that's how I've ended up sort of coming to this place. Yeah. Yeah.
So you thought, I'm going to get some help for me.
So what happened? I mean, I didn't even seek this place out. This place found me. Like, it's so ironic how this happened. Obviously, downstairs is the legal services.
Yes, we do have a community legal service downstairs.
So I was there. I'd gone there to draw up at the parenting plan. Yep. So he could see the kids. And he, obviously they knew, like, because you have to go into quite depth as to what your situation is. And he was causing a lot of problems with them. And they phoned me and said, look, there's a place upstairs that you could probably really benefit from. Yep. And I didn't call this place. I'm sure my number probably got passed on, but I remember getting a call from here. I'm sure that's how it happened. And that's
how you wound
maybe
up here.
like, did you want to come and have an appointment or something? Like someone reached out to me, and so that's how it all started. But I would hate to think that if someone didn't reach out to me, that I wouldn't have even had access or opportunity to this. So I think that I've just, after coming here and the experience that I've had and how it literally has saved my life.
Wow.
That I feel that we have to get the word out that this place is here for women.
Yes, that's our job.
Because I had no idea this place even existed.
I know.
Because you think, I don't need counselling. I can't afford it. It's going to cost me too much money. You don't know that these services are available.
Yeah, that can be, that finance isn't a barrier, because I think, sometimes it can be, but I guess the premise of our service is that it's not. But I think a lot of people too don't know, if you've never had counselling before, or if you've not seen a psychologist or all that stuff, you're like, what's that about? Oh, I'm okay.
I'm okay. I'll just battle on and.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big deal to come and see someone, a stranger. You're in a very vulnerable position. It takes a lot of courage to walk through the damn door. These are big things.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And you just don't know, like, you judge yourself.
Yeah.
You've judged yourself before you've even, stepped foot into here.
Yeah.
You don't know. Because you know yourself, well, why did I stay? You question yourself, and there's so much guilt, and that is the biggest emotion, I think.
The
guilt. And then you don't know how much you're going to have to bare your soul.
Yeah.
You don't know.
No, you don't.
And a lot of it you block out. You don't. You can't remember the stuff that happened until you start talking about it again and start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can often open up a lot of pain, a lot of memories, a lot of feelings.
But it's so important.
Yeah. So sounds like you'd advise that for any person who's left a particular relationship like that or something similar.
Yes. And if you're in a relationship that is that is abusive, because you know that it is. You don't even have to think, oh, is it? If you're even questioning yourself, then I think you've answered.
100%.
Do you think?
100%.
Yeah. You've answered your own question. It is. If you're questioning, could I be in one? I think you are, and get help now. Get help. You don't need to wait to leave to get help.
Right. You can start the ball rolling.
You can start the ball rolling.
Yeah.
You can.
What about, I don't know, what would you suggest for anyone who's got a friend or a family member they can see, like what your family and friends will witness more of over the years? And you said before that, you've struggled with the fact that your parents perhaps didn't intervene a bit more, but you don't know how that would have gone with who you were at the time. Like, do you have any thoughts around that?
Look, I'm pretty tough about it now.
Right. So you're really different now.
I'm really, really tough.
Yeah.
And if I see anything that's inappropriate, I speak up.
Right.
And I think we need to speak up.
Yeah.
We need to speak up. And I remember being out one time, and this guy, he was so rude to his partner. He was so rude. He was so aggressive and so rude, and he was rude to us. There was a group of women. He was rude to us. He was rude to her. And I actually went and got security.
Yeah, you went and did
something.
And
security come and took him away, and she was standing at this table by herself, and I just said to her, I see exactly what's going on here. You do not have to put up with this.
Wow.
You are worth so much more. You deserve so much more. Now, whether she didn't go home, obviously, and pack her bags, but I hope that it was maybe enough for her to think, this isn't right. Someone had said it to me that man, when I was living with him, had said, you don't deserve to put up with this. And it wasn't obviously till many years later.
Yeah.
But then we can't accept it.
Yeah. And it sounds like you just, I don't know, you get to that point where you get to that point. I don't know, that's a really kind of vague statement, but because you probably can have people telling you need to get out, this isn't right, you deserve better than this, and it's still not enough.
Still not enough, because you've still got all your barriers up as to why you're still trying to justify why you should stay, and you'll come up with plenty of excuses to stay. If you don't really want to go just yet, you will come up with enough reasons to stay.
Yeah, of course.
But I think any family member, men, women, acknowledge that it's not okay.
Needs to say something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think anyone, if like you're in a family function, whatever, and someone is being disrespectful to a wife, a girlfriend, people need to call it out. Yeah. Start calling this stuff out.
Because I think the silence just keeps it going, with people kind of almost like colluding by accident when they don't speak up, because like you said before, people are afraid to intervene. But that's like, I think there's a name for that, bystander effect or something, when people can witness something happening and do nothing because they're frightened or whatever. I don't want to get involved in all these things, but we keep violence going then. We do, by our silence.
Yep. That's huge. And I think that's a huge statement, that we keep it going by staying silent. Yeah. And all it takes is to be saying that is totally unacceptable. No one should be treated disrespectfully at all. And it's both ways too. Yeah. It's men and women.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we do stay silent because we don't want to, ruffle any feathers, and we don't want to cause any upset. We don't want to upset anyone in the family or look like we're being a big mouth. But you don't have to be aggressive in your approach. Yeah. It's very easy to stand up and say, we're not acceptable here.
Yep. And I think the more that's said, particularly for that person who's in that relationship, that I hope that would accumulate over time. There's sort of little droplets that going in there, and they're like, question a bit more. I don't know.
I think when you're in a relationship like that, that you are. Yeah. You're probably doing everything you can not to try to trigger them to get angry or upset at a family do. Yep. So you already know that you are. I think what it does maybe for that person is that if someone does speak up, that's a bit of a safety for someone to be like, well, they see it. They see it. They're speaking up. They're saying something. That's someone that I could turn to. That's someone that I can.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Because you need safe people around you.
You need safe people who are going to believe you or that you can trust. Yeah. Yeah. Trust is a huge thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So important in all relationships, but particularly when there's something like this going on. Yeah. And I suppose you don't want people sort of judging you and saying, well, unless you get out, you need people around you who can still be there for you despite your decision at the time.
Yep. Yeah, and that's important because I had friends who knew what was going on. They still loved me. Yeah. They still were like, we'll be here for you no matter what. Oh. But I think when you're in that situation, you're almost waiting for someone just to come and save you. But that's probably never going to happen. Yeah.
You need to do it yourself.
You need to do it yourself. You need to just find that courage. And it is courage. It's courage within yourself. And everyone is on a different time frame. Yeah. So do not compare yourself to anyone else.
That's an important point.
Yeah, that person got out. I've been doing this for so long now. It's too late. It's never too late. It's never too late. Yeah. It's, the future is just so bright. It's so bright once you make that decision. And it's not easy. Those months, that time after, it is tough. But you're tougher. That's what you have to keep telling yourself. Is that, look at the life I've lived. Yeah. Oh, yes. Look at the life I've lived. And that is nothing.
Survived all that.
Yes, survived all of that.
And the life you have now is
amazing. I mean, I think I've always had an amazing life. I think that's all wonderful to say is that, I've had my children and I've had, and I did love him, and there wasn't a beautiful love between us at times. And I'm so grateful for that. I appreciate all of that because I learnt a lot from him too.
Yeah.
I learnt what I will never tolerate ever again.
Awesome. I mean, that's a great thing.
Yeah. So life now is so much more peaceful. You don't realise how peaceful it is. There's no one to argue with except like maybe your teenage daughter.
Yeah. Well,
but that's, that's
normal
fun.
stuff.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Because I get to have a little giggle about that most of the time.
Yeah.
But the future is like, not even the future, right now, the present moment is wonderful.
Yeah.
And you just, when people tell you, you look like you've had, the world lifted off your shoulders, there must be some truth in that if other people are noticing it. Like if you're happy and you've got that spark back.
Yeah.
And it's so possible. And every single day, it doesn't mean to say you don't have hard days, tough days, days of, I definitely in the beginning I was like, have I done the right thing? Didn't stay that long. Like it was only for a minute. Like I'm thinking that. Of course I've done the right thing.
Wow. Yeah.
Of course I have.
Yeah.
Of course I have. You couldn't have kept living like that. That was killing you on the inside. And just to be free and have that self-worth, just to know that I'm worth everything now. Yeah. Like, and that comes from me, like self-love.
So you've
self-love.
built that again, build that back up. Yeah.
So you don't go looking for love anywhere else. You find it within yourself. You build yourself up. Because I think women also don't leave unless, I hate to say it, but don't leave for another relationship.
Leave for you.
Leave for you.
Yeah.
Don't wait till someone else comes along.
To rescue you.
To rescue you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time you tend to only fall into that temporary trap, and it can be the similar kind of person because you're just so desperate to get out. Yeah,
and you haven't perhaps resolved what was happening
the
within
issues.
You need to kind of, unfortunately, you've got to do that work on
you
yourself.
do, and it is work, and it's it's good work though.
Yes, as opposed to the work that you were doing in that relationship to survive.
It's good work. It is
worthwhile.
It is worthwhile, and we can say, it's hard work working on yourself. No, it's happy work. It's joyful work. Yeah. What could be more rewarding or beautiful than working on yourself and becoming
so important.
Happy?
Yeah. What a gift for your children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for everyone around you too.
Absolutely. That's the best work we can do.
Yes. Yeah. So I hope that, with my girls, I'm their role model now. And
absolutely. I know you would be. Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Tash, for sharing your story.
Thanks, Mel.
You're welcome. Listening to The Hidden World of Women, the podcast brought to you by Women's Health and Wellbeing Services. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube by looking up Women's Health and Wellbeing Services. You can also find us at our website www.whws.org.au. Bye.